I never thought I'd be the guy writing something like this, but here I am. My name's Jake, and I was supposed to be getting married to my wife, Lisa, next weekend. We've been together for about 3 years, and honestly, I thought we had a good thing going. She wasn't perfect, who is? But I trusted her, or at least I thought I did. From the moment we started planning the wedding, I noticed she was acting weird. She was short-tempered, snapping at me over little things. I'd ask how her day was, and she'd give me some half-assed answer like she was tired or busy. That should have been my first red flag, but I ignored it. I was too caught up in the excitement, in imagining our future, to see what was really happening. Then there was the pregnancy thing. Lisa kept insisting she was pregnant, and I believed her. She even got a little bitchy when I doubted her, saying she'd never lie about something so important. She'd put her hand on her stomach, tell me she was carrying my kid, and I'd feel this rush of happiness and pride. She looked good, she acted convincing enough. I wanted to believe her. That's what makes this so messed up. I was so eager for a family, I ignored all the warning signs. But deep down, I was starting to notice certain things. She'd be secretive about her phone, always keeping it close, hiding texts. When I'd ask who she was texting, she'd brush me off, say I was paranoid. She'd go out with her friends, and I'd get a weird feeling she wasn't telling me everything. I even caught her changing her phone password one day, and I felt this pang of suspicion, but I didn't push it. I was too scared of what I'd find. Then, a week before the wedding, everything changed. I was at work when I decided to check her phone out of curiosity. Something about her behavior felt off, and I wanted to know if she was hiding something. I slipped into her messages, and what I saw made my stomach drop. There was a string of texts with her brother's best friend, Mike. Flirty, suggestive stuff. Things I never thought she'd say to someone else, especially not her brother's friend. The texts were hot, explicit even. I saw pictures, nothing too graphic, but enough to tell what was going on. They met up the night before my wedding. The night before I was supposed to become her husband. I couldn't breathe. My head spun. I felt like I'd been punched in the gut. I closed the phone quickly, but the images and words were burned into my mind forever. I didn't know what to do. I was angry, betrayed, humiliated. All I could think about was how she lied about being pregnant, how she'd say anything to cover her tracks. I'd been stupid enough to believe in her lies, and now I was staring at proof she'd been sneaking around behind my back, right before our wedding. I sat there in my office chair, completely stunned. My hands started trembling as I stared at her texts, each message more damning than the last. She told me she was just friends with Mike, that he was like a brother to her, yet here they were, talking like they'd been planning to meet up for something more. I remember feeling this rush of betrayal, like the ground had shifted beneath my feet. I had loved her, believed in us, and now I wasn't sure if I ever knew her at all. I knew I had to confront her, but I didn't want to do it right then and there. I needed to think. I needed to plan. I closed her phone, took a deep breath, and went home early that day. When I walked through the door, her car was still in the driveway, but I could tell she wasn't expecting me so soon. She was in the kitchen, trying to act normal, that fake smile plastered on her face. I just looked at her, and before I could stop myself, I blurted out, "Lisa, I know what you've been doing. I saw the messages, your texts with Mike." The moment I said it, her face shifted. Her eyes widened like I'd just slapped her. She took a step back, trying to play innocent, but I wasn't buying it anymore. "No," she said, voice rising, "you're crazy. You're overthinking things. You're just jealous because I'm pregnant and you're scared you're not the father." That was her first response, typical Lisa, blame shifting, twisting everything around to make herself look like the victim. I felt a mixture of rage and sadness. How could she lie so effortlessly? How could she turn something so horrible into a sick game of manipulation? I told her I knew she'd been messing around with Mike, that I'd seen the texts, her reaction. She shrugged, rolled her eyes, and said, "So what? It's just sex. It doesn't mean anything. You're overreacting as usual." She looked at me like she was bored with the whole thing, like I was the one being unreasonable. That was it. I snapped. I told her I didn't want to hear any more lies, that I was done being played. We argued for hours, her trying to deny everything, telling me I was paranoid, that she was only with Mike because I was never around, that she was miserable. She threw in every excuse she could think of, said she was confused, that she didn't know what she wanted. But I knew the truth. She'd been cheating on me for God knows how long, and she'd been lying right to my face. I felt so many things that night: anger, heartbreak, confusion. The woman I thought I knew was a complete stranger, and the woman I loved turned out to be nothing but a liar. How could I have missed all these signs? How could I have been so blind? And what the hell do I do now? My wedding was supposed to be next week, and my world was crashing down around me. After that night, everything changed. I couldn't sleep, couldn't eat. My mind kept circling back to the betrayal, to her lies, and to Mike. I kept asking myself how I hadn't seen it all sooner. I thought about the way she acted possessive when I talked to other women, the way she kept her phone so tightly to her side, the secretive messages. Every little thing suddenly made sense in a terrible, sick way. I knew I had to make a decision, but I didn't want to rush into anything. I needed time to think, to process what I'd just uncovered. The next morning, I woke up feeling like I was walking through a fog. I decided I needed to dig a little deeper, just to be sure. I had a feeling she was hiding more than just those texts. I started going through her social media, her emails. I found some more evidence, screenshots of conversations with Mike that were even more explicit than the texts, plans they'd made to meet again, even a hotel reservation under a fake name. I felt sick reading it all, like someone had ripped my chest open and was pulling my heart out piece by piece. I knew I couldn't confront her again that day. I needed to gather myself first. I stayed quiet, pretending everything was normal while inside I was boiling with anger and hurt. I kept asking myself how I had been so blind, how I could have ever trusted her. She was so convincing when she lied, so bitchy and dismissive when I'd ask about anything that seemed off. I started thinking about all the times she told me I was paranoid, that I was imagining things. Maybe I was, but now I knew the truth. I wasn't about to let her get away with this, no way. I decided I'd have to hit her with everything I knew, confront her face to face, and get some kind of answers. I wasn't planning to yell or scream, at least not right away. I just wanted her to admit it, to see her squirm a little for all the pain she'd caused me. I was hurt, but I was also furious. How could she do this? How could she betray me so easily, tear apart everything we'd built? The wedding was still scheduled for next weekend, but honestly, I wasn't sure I could go through with it. Every time I looked at her now, all I saw was a liar, a cheater, and a woman who had used me. I kept replaying the scenes in my head, her fake pregnancy, her secret meetings, her lies. I wondered if I ever really knew her, or if I'd just been another mark, another fool she'd been stringing along. The betrayal cut deep, and I knew I had to decide whether to fight for this relationship or cut it off completely. But one thing was clear: nothing would ever be the same again. The day of the confrontation finally came. I didn't want to do it in anger, but I knew I couldn't keep pretending everything was okay. I told her I needed to talk, and I asked her to come to the living room. She looked annoyed, like I was bothering her, but she agreed, probably because she knew she was caught and couldn't really deny it anymore. When she sat across from me, I just looked at her for a long moment. Her eyes were defiant, but there was also a flicker of fear. She knew she couldn't lie her way out of this one. I pulled out my phone and showed her the screenshots, the hotel reservation, all the proof I'd gathered. Her face twisted into a sneer, like she was annoyed I was ruining her fun. "Really, Lisa? All this time while I was planning our wedding, you were cheating on me with Mike. What the hell is wrong with you?" I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. She rolled her eyes and scoffed. "Oh please, you're so dramatic. That's nothing, just sex. It doesn't mean anything. You're overreacting because you're insecure. You always think everyone's out to get you," she spat back. Her tone was bitchy, dismissive, like I was the one making a big deal out of nothing. I felt my blood boil. "Nothing. You've been lying, sneaking around, and cheating on me. How can you say it doesn't mean anything? You've been lying about being pregnant, about everything. Did you ever love me? Or was I just some fool you used to get what you wanted?" My voice cracked toward the end, but I couldn't stop myself. I was furious, crushed, humiliated. She crossed her arms, leaned back, and gave me that look, like she was bored with the whole thing. "Look, Jake, I don't have time for your drama. The truth is, I was never really into this relationship. You're boring, and honestly, I didn't want to marry you. The baby thing, fake. I just said that to keep you around. As for Mike, he's just a fling. It's not that deep. You're making a mountain out of a molehill." I stared at her in disbelief. How could she be so callous? Her words felt like a punch in the stomach. For a moment, I thought about breaking down, about begging her to tell me she loved me, that it was all a mistake. But I knew better. She was done with us long before I found out. I was just the fool who believed in fairy tales. I sat there trying to process everything. I felt a strange mix of relief and despair. Relief that I finally had the truth. Despair because I knew my life was about to change forever. I looked at her again and realized I was no longer in love with her, not the way I thought I was. All the trust, all the hope had been shattered beyond repair. I knew I had to decide what to do next, but I already knew one thing. I couldn't stay with someone who lied and cheated like she did. It was over. After I laid everything out on the table, there was a heavy silence in the room. She looked angry now, like I was the one ruining her day, but I just felt numb. I didn't want to shout anymore. I was exhausted from the emotional roller coaster. I told her she had to leave. Not just the house, but my life. I needed space, time to breathe, to figure out what I was going to do next. She huffed, rolled her eyes, and made some snide comment about how I was overreacting, that I was ruining everything because I couldn't handle the truth. That's classic Lisa, always turning things around to make herself the victim. I didn't bother arguing with her, I just wanted her gone. I grabbed my keys and told her to pack her stuff and get out, watching her walk. Out the door, I felt this strange mixture of relief and heartbreak. Part of me wanted to chase her, to beg her to stay and fix what was broken. But I knew that was a mistake. She'd lied to me for who knows how long. I couldn't trust her anymore. I had to accept that I'd been living a lie, and now I needed to rebuild from the ground up. In the days that followed, I kept replaying everything. Her words, her actions, the betrayal. It hit me like a ton of bricks that I'd been so blind, so desperate to believe in us, that I ignored all the warning signs. The secret phone calls, the changing behaviors, her dismissive attitude whenever I asked questions. I realized I'd been clinging to a fantasy, and now that it was gone, I felt like I was drowning. I started thinking about what I wanted from here. I knew I couldn't stay in this house, not with her still around. So I moved into a small apartment nearby. I needed space to breathe, to figure out who I was without her. I also reached out to a few friends, people I trusted, just to talk. It was hard, really hard. I'd never felt so betrayed, so lost. But in the midst of all this chaos, I also learned something important. I deserved better than someone who would lie and cheat and manipulate. I deserved honesty, respect, and someone who actually loved me for who I was. I realized I'd spent too long trying to see the good in her, hoping she'd change, but the truth was, she'd always been who she was, selfish, manipulative, and dishonest. Now I'm just trying to pick up the pieces to get through each day without breaking down. I don't know what the future holds, but I do know I won't let her betrayal define me. I learned that trust is fragile, and once it's broken, you can't just glue everything back together. But I can move on better, stronger, and wiser. And honestly, that's the best I can hope for right now. Looking back on everything now, I realize how much I was willing to ignore, how much I wanted to believe in the fairy tale that I thought Lisa was living with me. I see it clearly, how her bitchy attitude, her lies, her manipulations all added up to someone who was only interested in what she could get out of me. The worst part is knowing I was so blind, so caught up in the idea of us, that I ignored all the signs. The betrayal cut deep, but in a strange way it also set me free. I had spent so much time questioning myself, wondering if I was just paranoid or insecure. Turns out I was right all along. I just didn't want to face reality. The truth hurt, but it also woke me up. Now I see her for what she really was, a user, a liar, someone who never truly loved me. Living through this has been the hardest thing I've ever done. I lost my trust, my hope, and a part of my future. But I also gained clarity. I've learned that sometimes the person you think you know the best is really just a stranger in disguise. That honesty and respect are what matter most, and without them, everything else crumbles. As I stand here, a little battered but still standing, I can honestly say I feel a strange sense of relief. I don't have all the answers, and I don't know what's next for me, but I do know I won't be making the same mistakes again. I won't ignore the warning signs, and I won't stay in a relationship where I'm being used or lied to. Most importantly, I've learned to trust myself again, to trust my instincts. And that's the most valuable lesson of all. I hope anyone out there going through something similar finds their strength, because despite the pain, there's a kind of freedom in finally seeing the truth. And in the end, that's what will set you free.